Hey, guys.
Got a new punt returner in the mix, and Andre Roberts, a Pro Bowler in each of the last 3 seasons. What's he going to do to help this team?
Yeah, I think he's got a lot of experience. Andre got here last week, and I feel like he's exactly what we need. We need someone with experience that has a high level of production at the position. And, as recently as last year and really the last 3 years, he's been extremely productive. And I know that our coaching staff has a lot of respect for his game. I know that I've been places, facing him, being on the other side of it. And I think he's going to be a real asset moving forward for us. And we'll see where it goes. But glad to have him. And I just think that him kind of being an anchor with experience and production is going to be a real positive for both return units.
He'll be returning punts and kicks then?
He will.
And with him, was it that his talent was too much to pass, or was it that KJ just wasn't getting the job done, or a little bit of both?
Yeah, I think we were looking for a new direction, and I felt like for someone of his caliber to come available, that it was kind of good timing for both sides. And I know that he's energized by the opportunity, and so are we. And hoping that experience in both phases, I think also you can't minimize having a returner that does both phases is a very big asset if you can have it. And so I think that he can kind of improve both phases of return, and we need it.
Nas, Drew, and Justin Jones, all back at practice.
Yes.
Are they all trending towards playing this weekend?
Trending positive. They were out there and gotten good reports from them. We're going to see how full practice goes on Wednesday, but all 3 were out there, and look for them to play this week, hopefully.
And just how far away is Kenneth at this point? We saw him working off to the side.
He's getting closer. He's a little bit farther away than those 3, but we're going to be careful with his ankle and err on the side of time. But he's progressing well in a much different place than he was before the bye, for sure.
Brandon, you guys talked before, you said before the bye week that you guys were going to analyze Tristan Vizcaino. Now that the bye week is gone by, what are your thoughts moving forward with him?
Yeah, I think we've had a good chance to do that, to evaluate him and where we're at in the kicking situation, both in field goals and in kickoff. And I think that we've learned a lot about his game, and then we're going to make sure that we keep all of our options open at that position. But we still have a lot of confidence in Tristan, and I think that that's something that I still believe in my heart, is that this guy has real talent. And we're just going to see where it goes. I think we've identified some factors that can help his game. And at the same time, we're going to make sure that we keep all of our options open at that position.
Brandon, Keenan was an offer for practice. Everything okay with him?
Yeah, he just has a dental dental appointment. He will be back on Wednesday.
Hey, Coach, you use a lot of basketball references with your team.
Mm-hmm.
What is it about that sport that you gravitate to?
It was my first love, so it's the game I probably know the best. So that's probably why I reference it the most. And I think that our guys gravitate towards that sport too. It's kind of the sport I would say in a locker room that they talk about the most. So I just like making those comparisons, and it's always fun to go back through different eras, of basketball, and for player comps and different styles of play. And I think that it's just an easier metaphor in an NFL locker room.
When was the last time you played organized basketball? What was that?
In high school, yeah. I had a good run with my college teammates at Dayton in intramurals. We kind of had a run of 3 straight championships together, but that was not, I wouldn't consider that organized, although it was competitive. But no, basketball was my first love, and that's where kind of my heart, always goes from a comparison to football.
Brandon, the Patriots came in here last year and won 45-0. With that game, do you bring that up this week as a possible motivational tactic, or do you not even address it with the team, considering there are a lot of guys here that played in that game?
Yeah, I think it's a good question, Daniel. I won't address it because I wasn't here for that. I think if our players can draw on some internal motivation, guys that were at the game, then that's their thing. I think for me, I'm just treating this week like it has a life of its own, and this is the 2021 Chargers Patriots game, and I feel like that's our approach this week. But you'd have to ask the guys on that how they feel about it. But I know that we're just going to attack the 2021 Patriots, and they're an outstanding team.
What makes it different playing a Bill Belichick coach team than maybe other coaches in the NFL? It just seems like when a team's playing him, it's specifically focused on everything: offense, defense, special teams, and it feels like it's different with him.
I think from just my vantage point is they have an identity in all 3 phases that works through him, and that stood the test of 20 years in the National Football League. So when you're playing their team, they're connected in all three phases. So I think they're a very complete team that way. They know how to play to the strength of their football team. And so I think that that's something that he does an excellent job of, and just studying him, not only as a head coach, but as a defensive coordinator. I think that he's been able to fit and shape his personnel, each and everywhere he's been. And I think that that's a strength of his, and I think that their team plays that way. And I think he knows how to organize a team that's competitive in all three phases of the game, not just one. You've never seen their team kind of be out of balance. They've been able to be a team that can compete in all three phases and play championship-level football. And I think you can see that with the way this team is built. They're really coming into their own. They reshape that team the way that he wants it, and they're playing at a high level.
What have you seen out of Mac Jones?
I see a guy that's an outstanding decision maker. I think his processor is at a premium. I think for a young quarterback, you can really see that he can see the game. And I know that the way they play on offense, they ask a lot of that position. And you can tell that he can process at a high level because of the type of plays that they're running. They're running a lot of premium type offensive plays that you would think a more experienced quarterback would have. So he has that kind of command over their system. And I think he really has good anticipation as a thrower. I think that's a big asset of his just as a pure passer. He's got great anticipation, and his ball placement is outstanding. And I think that, he's got real toughness for the position. You can see that when he's in tight pockets, that he's willing to hang tough, and play the way that you're supposed to play at that position. So there's a really good reason that they drafted him in the first round. I think following him at Alabama, you saw the production, and you saw the way his teammates felt about him. There's a lot of first-round players that he was playing with that those guys, you can tell about a quarterback how they've, his teammates talk about him, how they feel about him, and I think he's got really good leadership qualities. And so he's off to a good start as a pro player.
I know we keep asking about the Russian defense and the struggles there, but just watching more film during the bye week, did anything kind of stood out to you why it hasn't been working so far?
Yeah, our front mechanics and technique at the first level need to improve, and where it needs to improve is with me. I need to do a better job coaching because our players will play better if we define things better. And I think at that first level, that'll help a lot. And then behind it, we had some crack replace issues into the boundary from a run support standpoint that hurt us. And really, it was just uneven at times in the first 6 games. There were a lot of good stretches, but we played 3 premium running teams that exposed some of those tough moments for us because how prolific their runners and their running attacks are. So, like I said, I think that you can look at me for why it didn't go well enough, and we've made some really good corrections over the last week or so, and I'm excited to get going with our guys because I know that we have what it takes, and we're excited to compete against a really good running team, this team, because New England's always been able to run the football.
Where's Bryan Bulaga at in his rehab? And are you still under the assumption that he's going to be back this season?
I think he will be able to return this season. That's the feedback we've gotten from the doctors. How quickly that happens, I don't know, but the feedback that we've gotten is that he will be able to return at some point. Just don't know when that's going to be because it's still kind of fresh, but that's our anticipation.
Back to Belichick, how much of his path have you implemented, being a former defensive coordinator as he was? How much of his path have you implemented into your coaching style, if any?
I just think that when I've studied Bill, I see a complete coach. I see a guy that had a rich education starting with his dad, who was in scouting and, who was kind of a coach himself. And so you get into that scouting background of, assessing players and teams. And I think he's got that background that's such a strength of his. And then he started out as a special teams coach in the league. So he's got that global perspective of, special teams and then how to put together a roster, back half of the roster. And then, he partnered up with one of the great coaches in NFL history with Bill Parcells and was able to be a part of a lot of championship caliber teams. And I think that the thing that I don't think gets talked enough about Bill Parcells is that all his quarterbacks played really well. They all played really well for him. And I think Bill Belichick learned a lot from that about how you need to play with different styles of quarterbacks. And I think when he got further into his career, you can see that he's gotten his quarterbacks to play at extremely high level. He's an outstanding offensive coach. And I think that that's something he doesn't get enough credit for, is that he's an outstanding offensive coach and defensive coach and special teams coach. And that's why they've played the way they've played up there for so long, is because he's a complete coach. And I know that that's something that I'm trying to be. And I think that that's, if I had to say what's the biggest takeaway from him is that he's a complete coach.
In the last week, did you, going back and looking at things, did you learn anything about your team that you didn't know before last week?
No, I think that we've got a team, number one. I think we've got a team that believes in each other. I think that we've become a team, which is it's really important in the NFL that you have that. Otherwise, you're just a collection of pieces. So I know that our guys really believe in what we're doing here. I think we're battle tested. Looking back and watching those 6 games that we've played in, those were 6 real NFL 6 real NFL environments that we were playing in. And so I think that we're battle tested. And so I think that that's also an advantage because you have a true assessment of where you're at in all 3 phases. You know where you need to go. You know where you've been, you know where you need to go and how we need to evolve as we go. And so I think that that's important. And then I think our guys, they've really are committed to how we do things on a day-to-day basis here. And that's really important because as you guys saw over the weekend, and I didn't see many of the games, but I saw a lot of the results. It's a week-to-week league, and what you got to be up for is you got to be up for that. Every single week is a new week, and I think our guys have really, taken to how we're trying to approach things with each week having a life of its own, and I'm really proud to be around these guys, and that gives you a chance.
Hey, Coach, why is a community involvement initiative important to you? And do you encourage your players to get out there in the community and kind of share their knowledge, share themselves with the community?
Yeah, I think part of the special platform of the NFL is for these players to express themselves and what's important to them. These guys have certain mission statements that they're a part of that are important to them, and they have the platform to be able to help those initiatives in a big way, or the communities they come from, their families. I think it's really important for these players that they are able to do that. I think it's you have such a small window of time as a player, but you can take advantage of it in a big way that can set you up for the rest of your life. And so that's what we're trying to do is give these guys every platform they have to take advantage of their time in the NFL so they can affect the type of progress and change and impact the initiatives and the people that are important to them. And I think that's one of the special things about the NFL.
When you say you guys are a team, what do you see that affirms that to you? That you?
Yeah, I think what I mean by that, Jeff, is that these games have all been a little bit different and how they've been played, and I think that it hasn't been one side of the ball or the other. I've seen a lot of football being played together, and it hasn't been one side of the ball or the other, where you have a tilted team. And that was a goal of mine, is for us to be a complete team. And we've won these games in a lot of different ways, and we've lost them, in similar fashion. And I think that it's a good sign for your team, is that you have balance. And that's certainly my goal here with the Chargers, for us to be a complete football team, where one side or one group of players is different than the others, and that's not the formula for success in this league. The formula for success is having a complete team, and that's what we're going to try and stress every day here.